Good day and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Live the Fuel show. All right, I'm usually pretty excited for most of my guest hosts, but I'm actually a little extra excited tonight. I'm bringing somebody that became part of my, I guess I can call it an authoring inner circle. I'm not even sure if that's a proper title. But this gentleman is my accountability partner. And he is not just my accountability partner, but he's a multi-published author. Well, he will be. And he's already beaten me to the punch and published his book. So I can now kick my own butt on that one. But let me give you a quick skinny on this guy. He's the host of several podcasts. I just have one. But he hosts his own, a few of them, helps other people host shows. There's a lot going on there. He's got the titles called JavaScript Jabber, Ruby Rogues, in case you're a tech space out there. His main site, devchat.tv. We'll do some screen sharing during the show for the YouTube watchers. He's also the author, as I hinted, of the MaxCoders Guide to Finding Your Dream Developer Job. And he started podcasting before me. He started in 2008. I definitely did not start that early. And the podcast he produces, get this, reaches more than 80,000 developers, just developers, every week, not month, not year, every week. And this gentleman lives in a state that I love to mountain bike in and I've skied in. That's right, Utah. The regular listeners thought I was going to say Colorado because I talk a lot of Colorado. But anyway, family man, got a wife, 5 kids. Listen, we're going to wrap today. We're going to have some fun. Without further ado, Charles, a.k.a. Chuck Wood, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks. That was quite the intro.
I get to have fun with it, you know? Yeah. I've gotten more animated in the past couple of years. I don't know if you've ever done, you've been doing this longer than I have, but I feel like your walls come down.
Yeah.
It gets easier. I don't know. Have you ever done that in any of your shows? You keep them all pretty dialed in.
They're pretty dialed in. I probably should add a little bit of life to them. I will tell you that my team is always coming to me and saying, do you really want to leave that in the show? And I'm like, yeah, everybody knows everything. So
you know what it is? I'm sorry, we're going to geek out about podcasting because we're both podcasters and we're on a podcast show.
That's what I do.
You're the professional. I mean, seriously, people now call me a professional because I'm doing it over 3 years. But and I guess that's actually, if you look at the statistics alone, I remember back when I launched the show, they said most people don't get past 3, let alone 7. And then once you pass 7 episodes, you've got a chance. Yeah. Is that still a common spoken about statistic?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay, there you go. And it doesn't matter what space you're in. That's just podcasting as a whole. But as I hinted, as we do more shows, it gets easier, right? It's like anything else.
Absolutely.
And
we have a whole system behind it now. So
you guys got like a lot going on. I mean, hold on, I got a screen share for this guy. Because like, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, again, I'm not kidding you. Like I podcast. He podcasts squared, plural, triple. I mean, whatever math you want to throw behind it. But there's a site. Adventures in Angular. See, I don't even know. I just saw Angular, but
yeah, web development framework.
See, you guys are all about the technology, and I like Ruby Rogues because I do know Ruby on Rails. I did work for a managed hosting IT company, so we did host some of those environments. So I can speak a little tech speak. So, but I was on the sales side. So, you guys got a lot going on, man.
The JavaScript's the big one.
Yeah.
And then Ruby and Angular are the next 2. And then after that, it kind of falls out from there.
Well, now, and you and I chat every week, but now do some of these shows feed off of each other and cross-pollinate?
Yeah, some of them do. So JavaScript Jabber so Ruby Rogues is the longest running. Okay. JavaScript Jabber is the next longest running, and it's the largest. Okay. And then Views on Vue, Adventures in Angular, React Roundup, React Native Radio, those are all JavaScript frameworks. Okay. Those shows are about. And so they tend to feed into and back out of each other. A lot of Ruby and Elixir programmers are also JavaScript developers because they work off the web. And so that also cross-pollinates some. And then we're getting into some new stuff with blockchain and DevOps. We have
you guys are going to do a blockchain one?
We started it a while ago. It's kind of hit a little bit of a slowdown. But yeah.
Yeah, but that's that. I have a little blockchain investment, so that's all right.
Yep. And then we're working on a machine learning show, and I just recorded episode 1 of another show that we're starting. I haven't announced yet, and that's going to be with a fairly well-known person in the development community. So
nice.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on, and it's super exciting because there's always new stuff to explore. Looking to get a little bit more into data science and Python, probably next year. So yeah, I mean, all kinds of stuff going on, and it's fun. It's fun to dive into this stuff, and I can go find experts, and I have an excuse to talk to them, even though I don't know anything about some of these topics.
Well, I mean, so I think it's safe to say that you, thanks to podcasting, do this full time.
I do. About 3 years ago, made the transition.
So let's pause on that, because I speak at podcasting conferences. You go to a lot of conferences. What's the people like? You don't have advertisers on your show. Blah 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 blah. I get criticized for that. I'm like, yeah, because I don't want to. Like I have a company, and I have contracts that make me money, and I've actually landed clients because of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, I could say that my show is monetized just that way. But a lot of people are like, well, what if you could do podcasting full time? I'm like, that'd be cool. I don't know. I've never really thought about it. But for you, clearly you flipped the switch. So did you always plan on podcasting full time?
No.
Hey, I love it. Because that is common in the entrepreneurial space. People don't always plan that a certain path could, boom, explode and become a primary business.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a funny story. So I had been freelance for about 6 years.
Okay.
At that point, I had been podcasting for about 8 years, 9 years. And the podcasts were kind of taking over my life. I mean, I had 5 shows at the time. And what was really kind of frustrating was that I didn't have time to do everything I needed for the podcasts and then be able to serve my clients, my freelance clients, because I was writing software for money. And so I spent some time praying. I spent some time thinking about it. I was really kind of terrified to take the leap into podcasting. So of course I went and asked my wife what I should do, because if she told me not to, then she could be the bad guy and I would feel good about life. And she looked at me and she said, well, do whatever will make you happy.
Wow.
And so she wasn't the bad guy. And of course I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, yep. And so I refunded about $6,000 in down payments that people had made on the software I was going to write. And I went for it. And it worked out. And I've been full-time on the podcast ever since.
That had to have freaked you out, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, heck, I was freaked out when I launched my show, let alone going full time. So, yeah. So where was your mindset at that time? Just like hope, was it one of those dream and hope things, or?
It was basically well, if I'm going to do this, I better darn well make it work. So,
okay. All right.
I went out and I found more sponsors, made things keep rolling. At that point, I didn't really plan on starting any more shows, but that happened too. We went from those 5 shows. Now we produce 18 shows.
Wow.
We have, like I said, another couple of them that we're recording right now that we aren't releasing and producing yet.
Okay.
So we're going to hit 20 early next year. Easy.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you said you're already in talks with another guy right now. So,
yeah.
So what's the deal? So you basically call yourself a podcasting network, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think people don't understand that either. I mean, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot more to get into. He's had a crazy amount of health journeys, transformations. He might know a few things about keto like I do, besides authoring and all kinds of craziness. And he's definitely a proud father and amazing family man. But anyway, podcasting networks. What's the deal with that? Like, so somebody gets bored like you and decides, like, I know enough and people don't want to deal it on their own. I'll just take care of everything for you.
That's more or less how we handle it, right? So, if we bring on a new show, we handle everything. So our hosts essentially have to do some prep work and then they just show up and record.
Gotcha.
There are other podcast networks where essentially you pay to be a part of the network. We don't do that. We just sell advertising on your show and then we cover the production cost. But you wind up paying to be on the network and then you're supposed to do some kind of cross-pollination, right? So you talk about the other shows on the network. And so you get some benefit, maybe you're all on the same website, they do some kind of marketing for you, but that's usually about it. And
Okay.
so those are kind of more for indie developers, indie podcasters. You see what I talk about all day. So, the indie podcasters will wind up on a podcast network. I don't think my shows necessarily count as indie podcasters, even though I kind of operate at that level. And then you've got kind of the bigger networks that usually come out of like a radio station or syndicated show or something. So like the Dave Ramsey organization has like 4 or 5 podcasts that are produced by the company there, or NPR has a whole family of shows that were radio shows forever, and then they just turned them into podcasts. And so, they operate in a different way than I do, and then that a lot of the indie podcasters do.
Okay. So, all right, let's change subjects here, because we could geek out about podcasting.
Oh man, I could talk for hours.
Yeah, I mean, all right, but I mean, the point of my show is, and I'm hoping this is a fresh perspective for you, is because obviously we geek out about health, business, and lifestyle, and not every guest co-host has to hit on all 3. Let's be real. But I love the fact that I mentioned how I have a standing desk permanently, and you were sitting when the show was about to start, and you go and hit your power button and raise your desk up, and now you're standing and enjoying a conversation with us. Now, let's just dive in right on that. Do you find that when you use your standing desk that you're more attentive or more focused?
I think so.
I do.
And
I know for sure.
I do it for a lot of the shows.
I will tell you though, when you first started using it, how long ago did you start using a standing desk?
I've had these desks for 2 years.
Okay.
I had one before that. And yeah, it's just, it's funny too, because I kind of play the games, right? Where it's, okay, well, if I'm on a call and I'm talking to somebody, then I'm going to use a standing desk. And I did that for about a year.
Okay.
And, and I would be recording 6 or 7 podcasts in a week. So I'd be up and down all day.
Yeah.
And, I don't do it as often these days, but yeah, sometimes I just feel like, you know what, I want to stand up. I need a little bit different position. And so, yeah, I just stand it up.
Well, here's the question. How was that first week of using your standing desk? Do you remember how your feet felt?
So I stood up the desk, but I didn't take a minute to move my pad over. I have a really nice pad to stand on.
Yeah.
And that helped. But yeah. And then I've also got a little seat that has just one pole on it, so I can just kind of sit back on it if I want.
Oh, like a monopod?
Yeah, except it's for your rear end.
Oh, well, that's creative. I never thought about that. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've been like, I work from home Mondays and Fridays. I try to only keep my business travels from like Tuesday to Thursday.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you do about the same when you're doing your travels.
It depends on what I'm traveling for, and
because you go to a lot of conferences. So
I have this year. I'm cutting back. I had a little bit of a situation with the last conference I was going to go to as well, so I didn't wind up going. But yeah, I just go whenever the conference is, and yeah, I try and make it home for the weekend. And make that work. I have flown out on some Sunday nights because it's just the way things fell.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of the conferences are like 2 or 3 days. So yeah, that works out. I fly out on a Monday night or Tuesday morning, and some of the conferences are full week. And the bigger conferences tend to be able to pay for me to come out, right? So they'll pay my airfare and my hotel and everything. And so for those, yeah, I wind up flying out on Sunday night and flying back on Saturday morning or something.
Well, so that's why I wanted to kind of casually throw that in there, because there's lots of books, other podcasts, lots of social media content gets put up there about life by design, right? Like, oh, design your own life, seize the day, carpe diem, whatever. Well, there's actually a lot of validity to that. I mean, you started putting in the reps on podcasting.
Yep.
Got pretty good at it, got connected pretty well at it to the point where you made independent. So you figured that one out. And then I tell people all the time, like, oh, you want to travel more? You want to get out more? Or you want to get paid to do cool things? Or at least just go to conferences for free? Well, there you go. You've found that out too, right? It's like, hey, man, I get to travel from time to time. I get to build my influence, help other companies and other organizations build their influence. And a lot of people think, oh, well, he must get paid for every conference. Like, well, actually, no. I know a lot of people who only go to conferences just to get their hotel covered. Sometimes you get the airfare covered, but that's few and far between.
I typically get the airfare and hotel covered. I wind up paying for the food.
Okay.
So,
but that wasn't in the beginning, right?
No.
So it's built to that. So
yep. And there have been a couple of conferences where I couldn't quite afford them, and I drove out to them. I drove out to one in San Jose last year.
From Utah?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
That's a 12-hour drive.
It's not a bad drive, though. I like driving.
Yeah.
I'm a road warrior. Usually when we're having our accountability calls on the author stuff, I'm usually I always seem to be in traffic coming back from like New York or Philadelphia or something. So
yeah,
I always feel bad too, honestly, because I'm like, oh man, Chuck's at his home. I'm in some noisy car or whatever, or the internet connection sucks. I'm like, I feel bad. So
it's all good.
Yeah. I'm on the go a lot. Like, it is what it is. So I average 30 to 35,000 miles a year on my car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you that.
Nope.
So that gives you an idea on the road warrior factor. So
yeah. Well, I got silver medallion status on Delta this year. So that's
nice. I just flew Delta. Yeah. I told you about our mess with Frontier Air. Oh, luckily we flew home on Delta. It was great. No complaints.
Yeah. I never run into a problem with Delta.
No. Well, so about this lifestyle with design, you look at it a little bit differently, I think, than I do. Like when you hear that term, what's your thoughts on that? Because
I'm doing this by the seat of my pants, man.
Exactly. Right. It's like, hey man, that chapter unfolded. Let's roll with it. And a lot of people don't get that. I think that what you just said, and what I also reinforced on what you just said, was that I think a lot of people, there's a fear factor holding them back, and they don't see the door opening, or even if they do see the door opening, they're afraid to just go for it and try it out. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you have to go for it. I mean, the thing that I'm really shooting for is just doing this with no regrets, right?
Right.
And so, and you talk about design, and yeah, I do plan ahead, but I find it difficult to plan ahead more than a few months. And so I look out into the future, try and figure out where I think things are going, try and figure out where I want to end up in all of it. And then I just do what makes sense for the next 3 months.
Okay.
And then I repeat the process. But week to week, I mean, it's okay. These are the couple things I have to get done, but it's all by the seat of my pants. And sometimes stuff comes up and I'm just like, oh, we're going over there. Yeah. And that's just the way that it works too, because at the end of the day, I know where I want to go, and that looks like a better opportunity than what I had planned. And so I do it.
Well, I think there's something part of that, right? So years ago, you probably didn't always do it that way.
No.
But
no, I totally accidented my way into being a podcaster.
Well, and that's the point, though, is that I've had to learn this over the years, too, is that we can only plan so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also reach a point where it's like, dude, I got to take some risks once in a while. Like the risk taking for me is what's going into my book. Because you and I talked about the Hot Shots book. It's like reflecting on the risks taken in life and the lessons learned from that. Now, granted, not everybody needs to take the extreme risk of taking on a life-threatening, first responder job. Even if it was only for 2 years, it was still crazy. But there's that fear. There's that fear of the unknown and fear of the change. And one thing I remind people of, whether it's getting into running, mountain bike racing, becoming a firefighter, skydiving, whatever I do, or stuff you do, because you've gotten into running as well, is that putting one foot in front of the other, and then you're going to make a couple of mistakes, or maybe that one train didn't go well. Maybe you got a blister on that one run, whatever, and then you'll tweak it, modify it, and try it differently the next time.
Yep.
I mean, am I making it too simple?
I mean, yes and no, but the part that's the no is the fact that it involves effort, right? It's easy to say and it's hard to do. And sometimes you really don't know what the right thing to do is, right? I got a blister, but I'm not an expert, right? So I'm going to, but there are other experts out there that I can go talk to. There are solutions. There are ways to figure out what's going on. If you're in an industry like podcasting, it's still pretty young. So sometimes there's nobody out there, right, that's doing what I'm doing that I can just reach out to and talk to.
Right.
And so there is some of that as well. But for a lot of this, I mean, if you just take the next step forward, you're going to figure things out. I had a conversation this morning, again, for this new podcast we're starting. We were talking about agile development.
Okay.
And agile development is basically There are 4 principles to it, but the last one is essentially adapting to change over adhering to a plan.
Okay.
So the idea is you plan, but then you have to be ready to adapt. And that's the other thing is that, I go get the best information I can, and then I just go for it. And maybe that's my personality, but it has almost always served me well. Sometimes it's painful going through the process. Oh, I could have gone up the other way. But for the most part, that's the way it is. And it's the same thing with health, right? I've been type 2 diabetic since I was 26. I'm turning 40 in 2 weeks. So.
Oh, you finally hitting a 4-0?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I just turned 42, so,
Yeah. Yeah, my wife's old like you. So anyway, I give her crap about that all the time too.
That's awesome. That's okay. My wife calls me old man because I got her by 5 years. So, yeah.
But my dad passed away last year, and he'd had all these health problems. He was diabetic as well. And I just looked at that and I realized I don't want that. But at the same time, I wasn't really a health enthusiast. I had done a little bit of experimenting with ketogenic diet. I'd done a few other things, but I was an athlete in high school, but I really wasn't that involved. And I was like, all right, I need to start exercising. But yet the problem is that I say, okay, so I'm going to go to the gym every day. And I've done that so many times, I can't even tell you. So I go to the gym every day for a couple of weeks, and then I don't anymore. Right. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do this the way I've done everything else. I've got to put some insane goal out there, like running a marathon, and then I've got to go for it. And so you're talking about, how do you go for it? Well, for me, it's, I'm going to go conquer something that seems impossible. That's how I go for it. And so I recognized, okay, I've got to set this goal and I've just got to go do it. So then I hired a coach, and then I started running every day. And then I made it a thing, and at one point my wife was frustrated because I went running at a time she wanted me to be doing something else. And so we had to talk about it. Right. And
sit down, have a conversation, be adults.
Right.
Yep.
And so we had a conversation about it, and she's like, yeah, you need to keep running. And, so we worked it out. Right. And so then I was running longer and longer, my Saturday was running 16 miles. Right. And so then I did it, and I completed the marathon. And so now I'm looking for that.
Again, congratulations, man. That's for a lot of people, they can't even fathom running a 5K, running a marathon. And I hate running, by the way. I ran my marathon in 2008, and it was a nice win, right? You got to celebrate it. Cause like you said, it's a hell of a conquering for most people. So.
Yeah. But at this point now I'm looking at it and going, okay, so what's the next goal? Right. And so for me, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to drop an hour off my time. And
there you go.
Thought, okay, well, that's a pretty audacious goal. And then I was like, you know what, though? I mean, I'm pretty sure I can drop an hour off my time. I just have to do the training. I can drop it. But can I qualify for Boston?
Oh, that's a big
goal. I don't know if that's a year. I don't know if that's 2 years.
Could be 5 years. We don't know.
Right. I don't know if that's 1 marathon or 2 marathons or 3 marathons, but I know I can do the marathon now. And so that's not an out there goal. And that's the way I have to do it, is I have to do something insane. And qualifying for Boston is halving my time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at it and going, okay, that's what's getting me fired up now. Right. It's the same thing with my business, right? It's okay. Well, what other communities, where can we go that nobody's going? What can we do that nobody's doing? I mean, what seems utterly insane? I know I'll start a machine learning podcast, right? Or things like that. And that's how I drive things forward. And that's how I get for these goals. Writing a book, it was the same thing. It was like, I know authors, and they all talk about what a slog it is. There's no way. And so I set the goal and I did it.
Okay.
But that's the way that I go forward.
Well, and that's something you and I have in common. I've learned that about you. Heck, how long have we been?
Year and a half.
Author buddies.
Almost a year and a half.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Come on, man. It hasn't been that long.
I signed up at Podcast Movement, not 2019, but 2018.
That's before me. I just mean, I'm saying when you and I became accountability partners.
Yeah, but I'd been in for a month or two so it's been over a year.
Oh my God. I got to get my book done.
That's where I got to. I was like, I've had this done for 3 months. I need to get it out there.
This is not cool. I don't like timelines like that because I was about to say, I was like, for example, jumping into the self-publishing school.
Yeah.
That was a financial investment. I mean, I've never, I forget what I paid. I think it was a few grand,
Yes.
whatever it was. It's like, oh, okay, great. Why am I doing this? Because whether it be the firefighting or running that marathon, or this year after I collapsed my lung, trying to do that 100-mile mountain biking ride, right?
That was insane, dude.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's like I was literally earlier tonight. I had a doctor on the show, and I told her what happened. She's like, "How did you do that?" And I was like, "Well, you're the doctor. You should tell me." And she's like, "That doesn't sound normal." I was like, "Well, I was like, I am far from normal. So
yeah,
as long as we're on the same page, yeah, sure." But it just cracked me up, and that's why I took that same mindset that you and I have been developing over the years. And it's like, okay, well, let's look at the book, right? I've been talking about it. Do I get the book? Do I not? And do I make it? Do I write it? What's going to happen? And I finally said, you know what? If I put some money behind it,
yeah,
it'll force me to do something with it. And that was my switch flip for me. So interestingly enough, I don't know if that was completely your reason for the book. Was it putting the financial number behind it, or
that was part of it? I'd been talking about writing the book forever, and I didn't know what the next step was, and that's what it was. It was like, okay, I'm going to get serious about this, and they're going to tell me what the next step is, and they did, and that's what I needed. I needed that next step. That was basically, look, you just got to sit down and write it, work on it every day. Of course. The difference is they tell you to sit down and write it every day, and my process was sit down and write for 5 hours every week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you were much more methodical about yours. By the way, I just double checked. August 2018, I signed up.
Yeah.
So
that's when I signed up too. That's when Podcast Movement was.
Okay. Yeah, we're almost at a year and a half. Great. Oh, I'm writing that down. 818 Bonehead. There we go. I literally wrote 818 Bonehead. So anyway,
nice. Yeah. So my next book is going to come out sooner than 16 or.
Well, and again, so there you go. You checked it off. You got it done. I would like to think me poking at you from time to time. That's the point of us having accountability partnerships. Like, dude, like you crushed writing it. Like you were just. The way you set goals, like you just like, I'm just going to sit down for 2 hours tonight or 4 hours tonight and just bang out like 2 chapters. I was like, holy crap. I mean, I was like, I told you, I voice transcribed the whole thing on my business travels. So now it's just me dealing with all the manual editing, which is god awful.
Oh yeah.
It's frustrating. But anyway, that's just my own frustrations. So, yeah. Well, here's the funny thing. You kind of skipped over something on the marathon story. You also did something a little crazy to get you ready for the marathon. Something called 75 Hard.
Oh yeah, I did.
Which is still pretty viral right now online. So, and your journey on the 75 Hard was not easy.
Oh man, yeah. I think all told, I did like 120 hard. Because I had to keep starting over.
I was wondering if you ever finished the math and real quick for the listeners, like guys, we're talking about something very challenging regarding health and fitness. You commit to 75 days. But one of the rules of it is if you break one inkling of the programming, you got to start all over.
Yeah.
Like what was some of the reasons why you had to restart?
So I probably broke about every rule except drinking the water, to be honest.
That's good.
I was getting into, I was figuring out keto, and I'd done keto off and on, a week at a time before, but I hadn't done it like deep and hard. And so it was, okay, I've got to figure out what works for me with keto. And because keto was what I chose to do for my diet. And that's one of the things, you have to stick to your diet. If you cheat, you start over.
Yep.
You have to drink a gallon of water every day, which is I still have water on my desk.
Because you built the habit.
Yeah. So, you have to drink 4 of those, 4 32-ounce bottles every day. And I managed to do that. I mean, there were nights where I would be going to bed and I would be chugging 2 of them before I would go to bed. but I did it.
Yeah, but then you have to relieve yourself in the middle of the night because you put so much water in you.
Yep. I
That
learned
breaks
pretty
your
quick
sleep
that was
cycle.
not the way to go.
Yeah, because now you're impacting your sleep, your rest and recovery.
Yeah.
I'm drinking water as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to post to social media every day, and I forgot that probably 2 or 3 times. You have to do a progress post every day.
Yeah. Well, actually, you did that a very good job because I was following you on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you're posting. So
yeah, I need to get back into the habit of doing that. I really enjoy doing that, and I got a ton of feedback from people too. They're just like, "Wow."
Yeah.
And and they go back and look at my pictures from before, and they're like, "You've lost a ton of weight."
Yeah.
Yeah, all told, I probably lost over the course of from when I started the first time, I probably lost about 30 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
the other rule,
like sustained and maintained.
Yeah, okay. I've kept it off. My pants still fit. I had to get new pants.
It's a good problem to have. Good problem to have.
Yeah. These are actually a little loose on me now. And then I think I forgot to read once. You have to read 10 pages out of a nonfiction book.
Yes, you had to physically read. I remember because and again, real quick, actually, I'm going to screen share again because I got to give him a shout out because I listened to his podcast, and I think that's how you and I started talking about this. Andy Frizella.
Yeah.
That's how
you
we found
introduced
out
me to him. So.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. I told you about that. And then all of a sudden I found out you're doing 75 Hard. I'm like, okay, so you must have really enjoyed that podcast because even I didn't do that.
No, I just heard it and I was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
No, there's no way I can do that. I could do that. So I did it.
Yeah. And real quick for the listeners, he runs the MF CEO podcast. And if you can't figure out what MF means, well, just go check it out because there's a lot of profanity on that show. And we allow some profanity on this show too, but I mean, Andy sets a new record. Great show. So
yeah,
a little shout out for Andy Frizella because he did create 75 Hard. And I've seen some amazing people making major impacts like yourself. So, and again, there's all different kinds of diets, lifestyles, etc. It's just find the one that clicks for you. And that clearly resonated with you.
Yep. Well, for me, it was just, I've got to prove to myself that I can do this. Mm-hmm. And what's funny was initially my wife thought it was nuts. And by the end, she was reminding me, did you read tonight? Did you post tonight?
Okay, good. I like it.
Yeah. And having that kind of help, it really makes a big difference.
I love the fact that it's interesting because you and I have talked about this too. Like you've been married longer than I am. You clearly have reproduced completely because I'm not. Like 5 times over. So I wanted to bring that in as a lifestyle component because I don't talk a ton about family on the show. From time to time, it makes sense. And you're clearly a super dad, man. You're a family man. You take your family and your religion very seriously. And I want to show respect to that. And I think that's a huge component to your success. Yeah. And you've already hinted at it a couple of times in the show. Like your wife has had your back. She's reminded you, poked you, and you guys have had, you might have a few disagreements along the way, but you sit down, you have a conversation, you figure it out. Right.
Yep. Absolutely. It's funny because
was I always like that?
I think we kind of matured into it, to be perfectly honest. I mean, we've always been able to communicate, but I think, yeah, I mean, when I went freelance, we'd been married for 5 years.
Okay.
And, she freaked out. I mean, when I went freelance, she was not on board at all.
Wow. And it's you know why? Because is she an entrepreneur?
No.
It's risky.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's all on you.
Yeah.
And honestly, you were probably scared too. I mean, we all are. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a month and a half's worth of money in the bank. And I just told her, look, if we run out of money and we can't pay the mortgage, then I'll go, I'll take a job.
Yeah.
And I'll do a job search simultaneous with my client search. And it just worked out. And we never ran out of money. So
yeah.
That worked out. And I think once I proved myself there that, okay, you know what, no matter what I do, it's going to work out. Then she was on board. And that I think that was really what happened there. And it also forced us to communicate more about a lot of this stuff, and I easily could have coasted, I mean, software developers get paid well. I could have coasted into more and more jobs and gotten paid better and better and better, but that wasn't who I was. And I think the other thing is she saw that I was much happier freelancing than I was in a full-time job. True. And I think that made a lot of difference too. Because at the end of the day, I mean, she's on my team, right? It's not just about her; it was about both of us. And as long as we had some security, she was okay with it.
Well, and I think that's part of it too. I think that was part of my journey with my own wife. But I actually feel that now that you and I are talking about this, I feel like I've had to learn about her more now that we're married.
Yeah.
And now I feel like she's always going to have my back. If anything, I've been the one that was second guessing myself. It wasn't her second guessing myself as I started growing into the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And did you recognize the same component? Like,
absolutely.
We probably thought it was all of them. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Let's do some self-reflection here, man. It's like, dude, you might have a little doubt in yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, especially this last month. And I came under attack for some stuff on Twitter. And
yeah, I know, man. That was so BS. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it. I don't know if you want to talk about it or not. I'm like, dude, you're just trying to be a nice guy. You're just trying to help out a colleague. It wasn't, everybody's got to take stuff to this polarized world. And I'm like,
yeah.
Once you told me about it, I went and looked at it and I'm like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, again, I guess I don't know the tech world as well as I thought, but I'm like, what? Whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if I want to go into all the details, but I got pretty down. And
yeah, dude.
She was the one that kept coming to me and saying, it's going to be fine. And I'm going,
wow.
How is it going to be fine? And at the same time, some of the sponsorship income had slowed down. So it was both at the same time. And I'm just going, how? The whole internet's mad at me. Right. And I've got to get some of the internet to give me some money, or we're not going to be able to eat.
Right.
And she's like, no, it's going to be fine, and yeah. And then I go back to my faith. Right. And, so I'm praying and I'm looking for answers, in among other places, from the word, from the church leaders and stuff. And, and I did find some comfort there. I found some comfort in working my tail off.
Mm-hmm.
But, I kind of go at it from all of those different directions. And yeah, I mean, she was the one telling me it was going to be fine. And I'm looking at her going, no, it's going to burn down. Right. And,
well, you know why? Because she's got confidence in you.
Yeah.
And that's what you needed. She was your sounding board. Dude, we're all going to be, and that goes back to our earlier part in the show, right? Like, guess what, guys? Not everything's going to go the way you want it to go. Okay. You're going to crash and burn once in a while, or you think it may crash and burn, but you've put in the hard work. You've built a loyal following. And that's kind of like a segue off what we're talking about here, because obviously. Well,
I want to chime in with something real quick.
Yeah,
because the real problem was that I was focused on the problem, right?
Aha.
I wasn't focused on any of the other stuff, right? I wasn't focused on the fact that, hey, I have a following of people that haven't abandoned me. Mm-hmm. I have a bunch of my co-hosts left, but I have a bunch of other co-hosts that didn't leave.
Start a clean slate,
right? I figured out the ones that are going to buy into this garbage, and I don't need to deal with that. Right. Yeah. I found out all at once. That was less fun. But at the end of the day, right, I know the people who believe in what I'm working on. My team is stuck with me through all of it. Right. And so, focusing on the problem did me zero good.
Yeah.
And she helped me focus on what I could do about it.
We see a lot of us fall into that. I think that's a great lesson coming out of this. It's like, you know what? It's so easy to fall right into that pain point and dwell on it because it feels like I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
And then again, depending on where we're at in our professional timeline, some of us react sooner, and you eventually did react. You're like, wait a minute. What am I doing to create the positive change? What am I going to do to turn this around or focus on the other areas of my business to ensure that if this 1 or 2 hiccups happen, fine, I got this other stuff rocking and rolling.
Yep.
And this totally ties into your book. I remember you and I discussing this on multiple weeks in a row. I was trying to be a little bit of a cheerleader for you because you've been on my back. I was like, dude, actually, I've seen it. Like my own client with his movie and his book, there's people who don't agree with his message.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guess what? Haters are still followers. And then which is so true. People literally follow, I manage his social media feeds. People follow him.
Yep.
And they don't even like him, but they follow him. So I'm like, well, you're increasing our statistics and our data and the performance of his channels. So thanks.
Yep. Well, and that was the interesting thing too. And I'll throw this in there, just to add to your point. So I don't know why I didn't do it sooner, but eventually I got around to changing my Twitter pinned tweet to, if you're fighting me for the first time, go listen to the podcasts. And I did that about 2 weeks ago, right? And at that point, the other thing that had happened was, all of my defenders came out, right?
Right.
So when things first went down, I had a few people come to me and kind of privately say, look, I'm with you, but I can't get involved,
sure.
Right?
They want to lose my
job.
They're afraid.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't blame anybody, right? I had some of my friends going, well, they're cowards. And I'm like, they have stakes too, right?
Yeah. They got families to feed and everything else. You got to respect that a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm good with that. But then a conference revoked my ticket.
Oh yeah. I remember that. I was like, what? That's like,
and that went viral, right? Because they went on Twitter and they said, they told people on Twitter that they had revoked my ticket, which, it's probably just not the best way to handle that.
Not really, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a lawyer. I only study contractual law, but I'm like, there's also something called defamation of character. Like, if you're going to revoke the ticket, then just revoke it. You don't need to post about it.
Yeah.
Like, just okay, fine. If you don't want me there, that's cool.
Yeah, they revoked it. They made a big to-do of giving it to some underprivileged person, and
Oh, they tried doing a positive spin.
Yeah. So anyway,
PR recovery campaign.
So that's when the internet came out and rallied, and they said, this isn't okay, right? We've gone and we've looked at what he said and did, and he didn't violate your code of conduct. Yeah. And so that started going viral. Anyway, so then I changed my pinned tweet because I realized that I was gaining followers like crazy on Twitter. And I'm like, well, if they're following me, because they're following me because of controversy, they're not following me because they know about the podcast. So I put that on there, and literally the next day my numbers went and they just went straight up.
They're like, oh, this guy also has a podcast. or a few of them. Yeah. Oh no, he has a whole network, people. You're following me because of the silly drama, and boom. So and I love that.
It's really funny too, because I started getting messages saying, I didn't even know who you were before I saw the YouTube video by, somebody that I'd never heard of, or this other person that I'd never heard of. Right? And then they're saying, and I was just, I was stepping in to see what I could do to, to chime in or help out. And then I found your podcast. You're kind of cool.
And so, they realize, oh, wait a minute, he runs a podcast where he's actually trying to help developers. And oh, by the way, all this is happening while he's actually launching his new book to also help developers in the community.
Yeah.
So that's why I told you that on those calls. I'm like, dude, let's just see how this washes out, because bad press is good press. And we talked about that. I was like, if you got some loyal followers, I was like, I'm very intrigued to see when they kick in. So in other words, the past couple of weeks, man, it's been on fire, huh?
Yeah. And I've had a few people, they're like, well, I found a place to donate to you. I found your PayPal address or whatever. Or, I saw you launched your book, and I just, what happened to you wasn't fair, so I bought the book. And
nice.
Yeah. So stuff like that's been happening too. And it's all kind of turned around. But
speaking of that, boom. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, on the YouTube feed. The MaxCoders Guide to Finding Your Dream Developer Job Kindle edition is already available on Amazon. I've already bought it. And I actually, now that I realized it, I didn't add you to my book library yet. 1 second. So I have an Amazon influencer page. So when people go to my website, they click on my Amazon banners. I actually had Amazon.
I need to do that.
Yeah, Amazon created an influencer page. So I have my book recommendations here. So now you're in my book recommendations. So
nice.
And actually, let me show you that real quick. Did I ever show this to you?
I don't know if you have.
Yeah, this is great for listeners too, by the way. If you want to be an influencer and you can create an Amazon influencer page. So mine's obviously amazon.com/shop/livethefuel. But anyway, it's linked on the website. But then you could build these groupings. And like, so I branded it, put the graphics up, etc. But then right here is every author that I've ever had on the show, or every book that I've consumed. So that's on Amazon. So there you go. So now, obviously, you've been added to the list. Boom, there you are.
I feel healthier just looking at it.
Right? I mean, yeah, like a Keto Guido in here and Strengths Finder 2.0. I'm a big guy on mindset. We talked about that earlier on the show.
Oh man, it's so critical.
Oh my God,
so critical.
Well, that's why I figured perfect segue, right? Like mindset, dude. You had so much bombarding you. I mean, well, we both had our own bombardments of our own brains on our author issues, and then that silliness happens online and beats you up.
Yeah,
but it's like, and you even said it's like it was so easy to fall into that negative trap. And you got your wife giving you the cheerleading squad, me once a week poking you. Then your fans start kicking in, and there's the mindset. Boom, like born again, man.
Yep.
So how do you, people hearing this, how would you sum up the mindset game for you?
You know, I've learned a lot about my own mindset over the last month. I mean, because I didn't anticipate any of this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm kind of a public figure in certain spaces. And so it was weird to all of a sudden have it coming, you know, in a negative direction. Some other folks who had issues with me before came out of the woodwork and started, you know, piling on. Somebody I thought was my friend wrote a blog post basically denouncing me. I mean, it's
a shame.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, it's natural, right, to get down during that stuff. It is, you know, and I was beating myself up for being negative too, and that wasn't helping either. And I think what really kind of pulled everything together was just realizing, because I had like 3 or 4 things happen on the same day, and and that was a rough day, you know. And you know, so the next day I'd get up and I'd start working on it again. And what I figured out was that, essentially there are a couple of things. One is that that saps your energy so fast.
Oh yeah.
And when that happens, I mean, it's okay to sit down and have an hour or a day or 2 days to just get through it, right? I mean, it's hard. It's freaking hard, right? You know,
it's hard for a reason.
You want to be out riding your mountain bike or your road bike, and you know, you pop along. You want to be out there riding, right?
Couldn't really ride. Couldn't ski. Couldn't ride. Couldn't rock climb.
I mean,
skydive.
we all do it, right? It's frustrating to get through, and then you have to go in and have a look and say, okay, what can I do that's going to make a difference? And for me, you know, I had to figure some of that out because I've never been through this before.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it was talking to people, you know, and figuring out, okay, this is probably a good way to handle this. And I had people encouraging me to sue them for defamation. I had people telling me to just stop talking about it, you know. So you get all this conflicting advice, you know. Sure. I think you've got to reflect, you know. For me, I have to pray. Mm-hmm. You know, I prayed a lot. I did a lot of things that I felt like I had been kind of led to do. And at the end of the day, you know, it's all kind of working out. I'm still dealing with some of it, but you know, at this point, I've realized, at least for me, that the mindset is the only person who can really kill this thing is me.
Ooh.
And B, the only thing I can do is work.
Yeah.
You know, just work at it. And it's going to be hard. This isn't going to be the last time I have something rough go on.
I'm sure you've heard this before, but one of the best ways to shut your haters up is success.
I have heard that before.
Right? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's like, dude, go quiet. Let your response. Because I see it from one with Vinny's feed, my client. Like he'll just usually he's all over Twitter, but he's like, oh, hold on, you know what? I have some really fun fans. Let's just give it a few minutes. Let's see these guys jump all over this person. And they do every time. So it's like, you know what? I'm too busy, man. I'm going to go run my business. You guys play your petty thing. And I'm going to busy being successful, running a marathon, launching a book, reinventing some new podcasts, because that's what I do.
Yep. Well, and it was interesting too. I mean, you talked about the fans. One of the people that came out was a very well-known personality in the programming space, and he came out and he just let them have it.
Oh, wow.
And, a bunch of people tried to come out and basically, shout him down, but there's no way. I mean, the guy
He's too big.
He has 130 something thousand followers on Twitter or something. You have huge platform, widely renowned author. And I think that's also when a lot of these other folks, so news sites picked it up. I mean, Linux Journal picked it up, and,
Wow.
and they tried to just stick to the facts. I mean, anything that they could corroborate on Twitter, but it really didn't look good for the folks that were coming after me.
Yeah.
And then they'd come and argue it, and it would get worse for them because of it. And so, yeah, in this case, being quiet was actually the right course of action. And a lot of these other folks came out, but it also made me feel better because I realized that I had all these people in my corner, right? I wasn't alone dealing with this. And that made a big difference too.
Well, I think that was me going through it weekly with you. It was only once a week.
Yeah.
That's one thing that kept popping in my head. And again, sometimes we don't know until you go through it.
Yeah.
I haven't had a major hater online yet, but I've also been doing social media for so long. I tell people, I'm like, I've had countless coaches that I used to pay work with, teach me. And they're like, people like Joe Rogan, the guy is viral in so many weird ways. But he says it all the time. He's like, I have no time to look at those comments.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't even bother. I post and I leave the app. He's like, I never look at a comment, a like, nothing. He's like, I'm too busy. He's like, I got too much stuff going on. He's like, I post and go. And that's all he does. So it's interesting, but it's not a bad lesson from a guy who's got a pretty viral following.
Yeah. We reach a few people. So
yeah. So, and I think that's a powerful lesson that you've definitely taken out of this. And it's reminded me too. It's like, you know what, sooner or later, no matter how many good things I'm trying to do in the world and give back, I'm sure I'm going to eventually get one of those that somehow or another. It's on the chopping block. It's waiting to be thrown into the mix. And I would like to hope that I've built up enough mental fortitude or that mindset game that we've been talking about to be ready for it. Almost. Yeah. I'm not saying right now, hey, bring it on. I'm good if it doesn't happen.
Yeah. But the other thing I think I figured out too was that a lot of the folks, I mean, once that turned around, I realized that I could make them pay, right? Because I had all these people in my corner, and I decided there was no point to that either.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, especially
I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to win.
Yeah. You with your faith, be the better person. You know what? You could do that. But I think it's cool though, because like, wow, I was not expecting that the big viral guy to jump on your camp. So that reinforces that good things happen. Like, with the right people. That kind of reinforces it. It just takes a little bit of time. It took a little bit for it to get through the Twitter world. And now you got some serious reinforcement behind you.
Yeah, but ultimately, I think what, at least for me, makes the most difference is just realizing that A, I didn't really do anything wrong.
No.
And B, I'm here to do.
You're not the one who put the original post up. You were just saying, hey, this girl's just trying to figure something out, like blah blah blah. And you're just trying to help a friend.
Yep. But the other thing I figured out too is that I'm here to do one thing, and that's to make great podcasts for programmers.
Boom.
And so that's what I do, and I'm going to do it for as long as as I can.
And now you're an author.
That's kind of the deal. And now I'm an author.
That's the other thing. Like you put out a book to help your developers that when you're not talking to them on a podcasts. And now once you get the audiobook out and the full book goes live after the I think that's coming up to the holidays, then boom, you can move on to the next project, the next book, the follow-up. So
the paperback comes out on the 10th of December.
Oh, you did set a hard date.
I did.
Awesome.
And it's pretty much ready to go. I just wanted another reason to reach out to my list.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably get the audiobook out early in January. I haven't set a date for that one yet.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, we're coming towards the end of our time slot. Time has been flying, man. I knew you and I had some fun. So, and that's how I run my show. If we're having fun, the time just blows by.
Heck yeah.
Well, listen, since you are a spiritual guy and you've been through so much in the past weeks and months, I figured we already had a lot of epiphanies on the call, but I like to close out the show out. I always have my guest co-hosts give us some final words to leave behind. And this is really more of like an all-encompassing message or something, more legacy messages related as far as everything behind what you're doing. What are you trying to go out there? That way, if you share this out to your developer peeps, they know like, oh yeah, I'm reminded about why, Chuck, aka Charles, does all this. So what would you like to leave behind for everybody?
So I've kind of been joking that I kind of accidented my way into podcasting, and I kind of accidented my way into being a software developer too. And what really it boiled down to was I found the things that I really naturally enjoyed and felt like I could succeed at. And I guess if there's just one thought over the last, 13, 14 years that I've been either programming or podcasting, is that every time I try and do something that's not who I am, whether it's not standing up for something I believe, or not going after something that I really want, or not trying to build something that matters, I'm not happy. Right? And so if there's one real message that I can put out there to people, it's just, look, go out there and take a chance on the thing that you love and see if you can make it work. Because in a lot of cases, what happens is you take a couple of steps into the darkness, and then you realize there's a whole path leading up the mountain to where you want to end up. And I don't know if that works for everybody, but it seems like most of the people that do extraordinary things, that's kind of where they end up. They find that place where they belong. They find that thing that really lights up their spirit, and then they go and do it. And they stay true to themselves while they do it. And it pays off. And I don't know how to put that more eloquently, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Actually, I'll shorten that all up with the last few words you just said, which is staying true to yourself. Everything was beautiful, but I think the way you closed it out just now is a lot of us second guess ourselves. And it's like, what? When you take the time to figure out who you are and what you're trying to put out to the world and what makes you happy, stay true to yourself. Don't fall off that. Don't fall too far off that line. That's when things get stressful. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I'll just add to that is that, I'm turning 40 this year, right? Mm-hmm. So you'd think, yeah, well, he's a ways into his career. But if I live till I'm 100, I've still got 60 years to straighten the course, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I screw up, I can crawl back up on the road and I can keep going. And so if you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s, heck, my mom, when she was mid 50s, went back to school. She teaches high school math now, right?
There you go.
After raising 10 kids, so it's never too late. And it's just not worth having the regret. So just, if that's you, go after it.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I've worn so many hats, so many jobs, so many career changes. Yep. I reinforce that. I tell people all the time, like, dude, a lot can happen in 1 year, let alone 5 years. You're worried about 20 years from now. Mm-hmm. Take a deep breath and relax.
Yep.
It's going to be okay. Listen, hang tight. I want to probably goodbye off the air. Ladies and gentlemen, one last screen share for the video feed on YouTube. But again, check him out at devchat.tv. If you know anybody who's a tech-savvy developer out there and they don't know about all of these shows, send them there, because that's what our blog post is going to do. That's what our content's going to show. And again, whether it was everything from authoring a book to 75 Hard to marathon running, everything from risks to effort to dreams to goal setting. I mean, we hit on all cylinders tonight, man. Thanks again for making it on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to fuel your health, your business, and your lifestyle. I think we definitely did that today. So,
I hope so.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in. And remember, you too can live the fuel, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.